Why does she only start thinking about you when you go quiet? Why does your silence speak louder than any of your words ever did? And how does a man who stops chasing suddenly become the one she can't stop thinking about? When you stop calling, stop texting, stop chasing, she begins to feel something unexpected, not because you're playing games, not because you're cold, but because you've taken a step back with peace and self-respect. This isn't just about mystery or space. It's about the quiet power of emotional detachment, something most men never learn to master. In this video, we're going to break down exactly why the less attention you give, the more attraction grows, and how your silence, when grounded in self-worth, can shift everything between you and her. Sign number 1, less attention, more attraction. Women are drawn to what feels just out of reach. When you constantly give your time and energy, she gets used to it. But the moment you pull back, even slightly, she notices this is human nature. The more available something is, the less we value it. A man who understands this doesn't beg for attention. He lets his absence speak. When you stop chasing, when you're no longer always the one reaching out, she feels the shift. She starts to wonder why the energy she once took for granted is suddenly missing. And that curiosity, it turns into attraction. Stoicism teaches us self-control, to value ourselves first. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your thoughts are consumed with how to win her attention, you become needy, reliant on her validation. But when your focus returns to yourself, your purpose, your peace, you radiate differently. And women feel that. She can sense when you pull away, not because of a game, but because you genuinely have other things in your life that matter. She feels it when your world no longer revolves around her. That's when she starts wondering, and the pull begins. Picture this. A man texts a woman every day, compliments her constantly, always available. At first, she enjoys it. But over time, it becomes predictable. Now imagine. He stops initiating. He focuses on his passions, his growth, his goals. Days pass. She notices the silence. At first, she shrugs it off. But then it lingers. She finds herself checking her phone, rereading old texts, remembering what she once took for granted. That's the power of absence. That's the power of restraint. A Stoic man doesn't chase. He attracts by knowing his worth. He doesn't withdraw to manipulate. He walks away because his peace is worth more than chasing approval. So the next time you feel the urge to prove yourself with constant presence, take a step back. Let her feel the weight of your absence. If she truly values you, she'll come searching. If not, you've saved yourself the effort meant for someone who will. Remember what we explored before? When you pulled back, she didn't. Just feel your absence. She started to realize just how much she had relied on your presence. She may have never noticed how much she depended on your texts, your attention, your emotional availability. It was constant, predictable, comfortable, but that's the hidden paradox of attraction. The more available and consistent your presence is, the easier it is to take for granted. The moment you withdraw, the silence becomes deafening. Suddenly, your absence speaks louder than anything you've ever said. That's why a man who masters his energy on it, who channels it with intention, becomes magnetic. He doesn't need to chase. He doesn't over-explain. His calm withdrawal speaks volumes. When you give your attention freely, endlessly, without boundaries, it begins to lose value. But when your presence must be earned, not assumed, it starts to demand attention, and she feels it. She wonders, why is he quiet now? Did I do something? Has he moved on? These questions awaken curiosity, and from curiosity, desire grows. Maybe even regret. This is the power of emotional discipline. This is what Stoicism teaches us to build. As Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Apply that to relationships, and you realize something life-changing. The more you need her attention, the weaker your position becomes. But the moment you release that need and instead focus inward on your peace, your purpose, your progress, step into true control. You're no longer reactive. You're no longer tied to her validation. Think about it. When you're always the one reaching out, always initiating, always available, she doesn't need to wonder, she doesn't question, there's no mystery, no tension. But when you take a step back, even temporarily, she begins to feel that emptiness. Not because you're playing games, but because now she has space to reflect on what your presence really meant. And sometimes that reflection hits deeper than any conversation ever could. So remember, your attention is power. Don't waste it on those who don't value it. Stay calm. Stay grounded. Let your silence speak when words fall short. Because in silence, truth echoes loudest. And in that space of silence, when she feels the shift, something unexpected happens, she starts to chase. Let's dive into that next. Previously, we talked about how your absence creates space. But now, let's go one step deeper. The moment you stop feeding her expectations, her mind starts working against her. Why isn't he texting? Did I do something wrong? Is he with someone else? Just like that, the dynamic shifts. The Stoics mastered this art of self-discipline. They understood that power lies in restraint, knowing when to act and when to pull back. As Epictetus once said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things beyond our control. And this applies perfectly here. You can't force a woman to desire you, but you can control how much of yourself you offer. Don't be the man constantly seeking validation. Be the man who respects himself enough to step back and let her come to him. Think of it like a fire and oxygen. If you smother it with too much oxygen, and it dies. But give it the right amount of space, and it grows stronger. Attraction works the same way. When you're always there, always texting, always chasing, she never has to miss you. But when you go silent, when you remove yourself, she feels the void, and that void makes her want to fill it. A man who controls his energy becomes magnetic, not because he's playing a game, but because he knows his worth. He doesn't throw himself at someone who doesn't appreciate it. He moves with intention, and he knows if she truly values him, she'll feel the emptiness and come searching. If she doesn't, then she never really wanted him in the first place. So the next time you feel the urge to reach out, pause. Let her sit in the silence. Let her feel what it's like without you always being there, because the less attention you give her, the more she feels it. And if she truly cares, she won't stay silent for long, and just when she starts to feel that gap, something deeper happens. She begins to rethink everything. Let's uncover that powerful moment in the next part. In the last part, we uncovered what happens when you stop chasing. She begins to lean in. Now let's dive deeper into what makes that shift possible. Your internal power, not your external effort. Picture two men. One constantly checks his phone, overthinks every message, waits anxiously for her replies, and clings to every little sign that she likes him. The other? He's living his life, chasing his goals, staying true to his values. He doesn't ignore anyone, but he replies when he chooses, not out of fear, but with intention. Now ask yourself, who do you think she finds more attractive? The man who's chasing, or the man who moves with quiet confidence? Here's the truth. Confidence doesn't come from being liked. It comes from knowing your worth, even when no one's watching. When you stop seeking external approval, you start radiating something stronger, inner power. That's what draws people to you, not your effort to be chosen, but your certainty that you're already enough. People are drawn to those who don't need attention to feel good about themselves. They're drawn to the man who can sit in silence, walk away when needed, and still feel whole. That's what makes your presence powerful. And more importantly, that's what makes your absence unforgettable. Because when you truly embody this mindset, not as a trick, but as a way of life, you begin to see something. The less you chase, the more you're chased. And that's when you realize you never had to prove your worth, you only had to remember it. Sign 8. Mystery. Makes you irresistible. Predictability kills attraction. If she knows exactly what you'll do when you'll text, how you'll respond, there's no tension. But when you pull back, when you step out of the frame, everything changes. Suddenly she's the one wondering, why hasn't he texted? What's going on? Has he moved on? Human nature craves mystery. We chase what feels just out of reach, and we value what's not guaranteed. When you're too available, too predictable, you become routine. Comfortable, but uninspiring. But when your life doesn't revolve around her, when you move with intention and keep your world intact, you become intriguing. Curiosity builds. And curiosity creates tension. Tension creates attraction. A man of discipline understands this. He doesn't need to perform. He simply moves with focus. He doesn't chase. His presence draws people in. As Marcus Aurelius said, a real man doesn't give way to anger or discontent. Such a person has strength, courage, and endurance. The same is true in attraction. When you control yourself and break free from needy patterns, you stand out. Imagine two men. One always texts first, always checks in, always repeats the same habits. The other, he lives his life, replies when he wants, and doesn't feel the need to over-explain. Which one keeps her guessing? When you're less predictable, you're more desirable. And when you have the strength to resist the urge to seek validation, you become the man she can't help but notice. Next, we'll look at a surprising twist. What happens when her ego takes a hit? Not because she lost you, but because she can no longer rely on your attention to feel powerful. Let's unpack that in the next section. Previously, we explored how mystery and restraint can shift attraction. Now let's go deeper into a truth most men overlook. If you don't need her validation, you've already won. Imagine this. If someone handed your body to a stranger on the street, you'd be furious. So why do we so easily hand over our minds, emotions, and peace to someone who doesn't value them? That same logic applies to relationships. If a woman's validation controls your emotions, you've already lost the balance. But if you remain calm, detached from the need to be liked, you become the one in control without needing to prove anything. Think of it this way: the man who tries too hard is easy to forget, but the man who pulls back, who stands tall without chasing, he lingers in her mind long after he's gone. And if she truly valued you, she'll come back. Not because you begged, but because the void you left behind became too loud to ignore. Sign 10. Distance rekindles. Desire time apart doesn't just create space, It creates nostalgia. When you stop texting, calling, or constantly showing up, something interesting happens. She starts thinking, not just about where you went, but about everything you brought into her life, your voice, your calm presence, your humor, the safety she felt with you. All the things she once took for granted now echo in silence. And that silence, it says more than words ever could. She begins to notice what's missing. What used to feel normal now feels like a gap. And in that gap, she reflects on everything she might have overlooked. Absence sharpens memory, and it sharpens attraction. When something's always there, we stop valuing it. But take it away, and suddenly it feels irreplaceable. The wisest men understand this. They don't chase, they don't beg. They walk away when they're no longer appreciated. Not out of ego, but out of self-respect. They master the art of letting go, and they let time do what words never could. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." When you step away from her daily life, you stop being background noise. You become a thought, a memory, a question, and that curiosity, it's more powerful than any message you could send. Think of it like your favorite song. If you play it every day, it fades into the background. But when you haven't heard it for a while and it comes on unexpectedly, it hits deeper. It brings back feelings. Relationships work the same way. If you're always available, always present, there's no space to be missed. But when you step back gracefully and leave only the echo of your presence, that's when nostalgia sets in. And nostalgia, it doesn't just remind her what she had, it makes her want it back. A man who understands this doesn't force attraction. He doesn't chase fading love. He steps back and lets space create clarity. If she truly valued you, she'll feel the absence. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But eventually, she'll look back and realize the version of you she had isn't easy to replace. And that's when your silence says more than any message ever could. Up next, we uncover one final truth. Whether she comes back or not, you still win. Because real power comes from growth, not from chasing outcomes. Earlier, we saw how distance and silence can stir deep emotions. Now here's the ultimate truth. Whether she returns or not, you still win. That's the beauty of it. If she comes back and recognizes the value she once overlooked, that's fine. But if she doesn't, that's even better, because it means you were spared a future with someone who never truly appreciated you. Either way, you win. Why? Because you didn't compromise your dignity. You didn't beg. You didn't betray your values to stay accepted. A Stoic man doesn't fall apart when someone leaves. He doesn't chase. He doesn't cling. He doesn't crumble. He stands firm in his purpose, in his principles, in his peace. He knows that a setback isn't a defeat, it's a redirection, a course correction leading him to something more aligned. He knows that his worth is not determined by someone else's perception, so whether she comes back or disappears forever, you keep moving forward with self-respect. And in a world that's constantly trying to throw you off balance, the ability to stay grounded is the ultimate victory. As we wrap up today's journey about how silence creates curiosity and sparks attraction, one thing becomes clear. The more you step back with purpose, the deeper the impression you leave. This isn't about vanishing. It's about valuing yourself enough not to overextend your presence. This deliberate withdrawal taps into a deep truth of human psychology. We value what isn't always available. The Stoics knew this well. They taught us the importance of self-worth and the power of looking inward. When you practice the art of selective engagement, you don't just create mystery, you allow others the space to appreciate your presence. And that's not just a method for attraction, it's the foundation of genuine, respectful connection. If today's message resonated with you, make sure to like this video and subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. Share your story or drop a thought in the comments. Maybe type, "My silence is strength," if that's the energy you're embracing. Want to go deeper? Check out the videos on your screen now for more on Stoic wisdom in modern life. Your engagement helps these messages reach those who truly need them. Thanks for watching. And until next time, stay calm, stay focused, and protect your peace.